Hey, what's going on, you guys? Today I wanted to make a video talking about moves my personal company is making to automate my job and replace me with AI. So, ironically, if you watched my video probably about a month ago now on Claude Mythos and my thoughts on it, my personal opinion was that, large language models like Claude Mythos and these other things were not going to completely replace, like a bunch of cybersecurity jobs. And I still think long term that's going to hold true. I think long term, you're still going to need like junior level analysts and things like that. And I think it'll go through a process where a lot of people in the future will be getting hired back on. But at least in the medium to short term, um, I'm thinking, whether you think it's going to be successful or not, I think companies undoubtedly are going to try. And my company is one of those companies that is going to try. So we were just told this week by our manager that we were looking at a company and product called ReliaQuest by Gray Matter to replace another tool that we have for for monitoring and security alerts and things like that. And the thing about ReliaQuest is they promote heavily eliminating your tier one and tier two positions, or at least augmenting them with their program. And so they claim online that it's not going to replace jobs. It's literally just to automate grunt work, so it frees up your other analysts. Even if that's true, maybe you always need tier one and tier two analysts, but I think the fact of the matter is, if you get better automation and pattern matching rules built into these models and everything, and these models are natively built into these programs, you'll probably just need less analysts just in general. So some level of jobs and salaries will be replaced by this stuff, and so I mean it benefits the business. Obviously, I completely understand why they do it. I don't think, again, I don't think companies would go 100% like fully automated. Like, you're gonna need some human in the loop scenario there. But I understand why companies would want to replace as many people as possible, because it's just to get that added expense off their balance sheet. But it's funny because in my meeting, my manager made the claim. He was like, "Listen, this isn't going to replace anybody. If anything, it's going to add people." And I'm like, "Okay." Like, it's kind of like what they're going to tell you to keep you calm and not keep you around. But I think the general idea is, it'll still be some time before, it replaces me per se. If I'm someone that's going to go as a tier one analyst, I'm thinking it'll probably be at least a year before it would even be attempted to be implemented, because things just take approval processes take so long, and things like that. And it takes a long time to implement a tool and replace an old one and tune it and things like that. But I'm thinking the goal is like 2 years. Like, I think in 2 years, my company wants to have a reliable replacement of some of our existing tools that can be automated heavily by these new built-in AI agents, and they can get a lot of these salaries off their books. We do have some job security in terms of we do some federal contract work. So, like, I can't see, again, like, every human being replaced, because I don't think the federal government would allow that. But I think undoubtedly, they're going to try and get as many people off, the company's payroll as possible. And I mean, a couple weeks ago, we had another SOC team that handled purely like email security, and they got liquidized. So, you know, this is kind of happening throughout the industry entirely, just just in general. And it doesn't surprise me, but undoubtedly, companies that are maybe in the hole financially or struggling, they're obviously going to be the ones to try first. And I think undoubtedly, like, every company is going to try and automate as much as possible. So it is officially, affecting my life. And kind of what I'm doing to prepare for that is I'm diving deep into certifications, trying to get as much padding up my resume as possible. I'm not going to wait around for the day that, they tell me that your job's no longer a thing. That's the biggest mistake you can make. So I'm used to job hopping. I've I've done it before. I'll do it again. And I'm just trying to pad my resume as much as possible, get them to pay for as many certifications as they're willing to, and then just keep an eye out, just keep applying, things like that. And I figure I probably still have a couple years. I think I have probably 2 years of safety um, with my current company before things get really serious. But this entire time, I'm just going to be doing certifications, building up that resume. The longer I'm on the job, the more it contributes to my work experience, and then just continuously keep applying. And that's really the best you can do. I have kind of made the decision, if the doomsday scenario occurred where I got laid off because of AI automation, and I could not find for the life of me another job in the field or anything like that. I would not go back. I couldn't see myself going back to like some retail job or something like that, even though it would be viable. But I think I would honestly go Air Force or something like that, provided I could get, again, like a role in the field that I do. I've always thought serving in the military would be cool. But again, I would want to be in a role that, what I've been training for my whole life in the field that I've been working in. I'd want a role that, is based in that. So, I could benefit, but also the military could benefit, things like that. But again, I expect that to get harder. As more people get laid off, I imagine, recruiting for the military will go up. That's typically what people do for security. You find some kind of job you can do for the federal government. And I just imagine, as more people apply for the military and enlist, obviously the desire to get a job that you want, the possibility of you getting it, or the probability, goes down, obviously, the more people that apply. So we'll see going forward, but that's kind of, my life scenario right now. I just want to make a quick commentary. If you're somebody that's worried about AI automating your job, again, I don't think long term it'll really be the case. I think it'll probably go through a phase where a lot of companies initially try to, and they lay people off, and then they probably will realize that the AI just can't do everything that a human needs to be able to do for the job, and so they'll probably eventually hire people back. Plus, I mean, you're going to need eventually, when as more senior level people retire, more experienced people, you're going to need junior people to mentor up. So I just feel like, at some point there'll be some kind of correction like that. But at least, again, if you have fears in the midterm, in the short term about automation, I think it's real. I think companies are going to try to do it 100%, and it makes sense from the company perspective why they would. So just do whatever you can to prepare. Get those certifications, get that experience. Just keep applying. It's extremely saturated right now, but I imagine the market's saturated by a bunch of people that don't have credentials, that are coming out of college and things. Unfortunately, if you're a college student graduating right now in cybersecurity, I couldn't imagine. Honestly, that's got to suck. But anyways, if you guys have any thoughts or anything you want to vent on, leave it in the comments down below. I read them all. And yeah, that's all for now. Have a good one.